On January 8, 1989, British Midland Flight 92, a routine service bound for Belfast, pushed back from the gate at London Heathrow Airport. It was a cold, clear winter night. Aboard the sleek Boeing 737-400 were 126 passengers and crew, business travelers, families, and those returning home after the holidays. The aircraft itself was almost brand new, representing the cutting edge of aviation technology. With its gleaming white fuselage and blue tail flashing the British Midland logo, it embodied modern air travel, efficient, safe, routine. Captain Kevin Hunt and First Officer David McClelland, both respected and experienced pilots, had completed hundreds of flights together. To them, Flight 92 was just another short hop to Belfast. The mood in the cockpit was calm and focused. The engines roared to life, and as the aircraft accelerated down the runway, no one aboard could have imagined that within an hour, the name Kegworth would become etched into aviation history forever. As the 737 climbed through 28,000 feet, about 13 minutes after takeoff, tranquility shattered. A sudden, violent vibration tore through the cabin. Passengers gasped as the aircraft shuddered, rattling trays and overhead bins. A deafening rhythmic pounding filled the air, a mechanical roar that reverberated through metal and bone alike. Seconds later, the acrid smell of smoke and burning electrics invaded the cabin, seeping through the vents. The left engine, engine number 1, had suffered a catastrophic fan blade fracture. The failure triggered violent compressor surges, sending flames licking from the exhaust. On the left side of the aircraft, passengers stared in horror as bursts of fire flared from the engine cowling, illuminating the wing in orange light. In the cockpit, alarms blared. The vibration was so severe that the flight instruments blurred. The crew knew instantly one engine was failing, but which one? That single question, so simple, so critical, would decide the fate of everyone on board. The smell of smoke in the cockpit seemed to come from everywhere. The instruments flickered. The vibration indicators were unreliable. The pilots struggled to make sense of the chaos. Captain Hunt asked, "Which engine is it?" First Officer McClelland glanced quickly at the gauges. The readings danced wildly, impossible to interpret with certainty. Amid the confusion, he stammered, It's the right one." That hesitation, less than a second long, became a fatal pivot point. Hunt, trusting both instinct and experience, accepted the diagnosis and retarded the right engine's throttle. And then, fate played its cruel trick. The moment the right engine's power was reduced, the shuddering diminished. The pounding subsided. The smoke began to clear. To both men, it seemed they had found the culprit. The feeling of calm returning to the cockpit was a powerful illusion. In truth, the left engine was still damaged, but at idle power, its violent behavior had momentarily ceased. The pilots, convinced they had taken the correct action, shut down the right engine entirely. British Midland Flight 92 was now flying on one engine, one that was failing. The crew declared a mayday and diverted to East Midlands Airport. In the cabin, flight attendants moved quickly through the aisles, calming passengers, checking seatbelts and preparing for what they believed was a routine single-engine landing. But on the left side, passengers could see the truth with their own eyes. Fire and sparks still flickering from the left engine. Some whispered to the attendants, pointing urgently toward the flames. Yet the chain of communication broke down. The cabin crew, afraid to disturb the pilots in a crisis, did not call the cockpit. The passengers trusted the professionals up front. And so the truth, burning visibly outside the window, never reached those who needed it most. As the aircraft descended toward East Midlands, the situation seemed under control. The lights of the city shimmered below. The crew completed checklists, preparing for a standard single-engine approach.
they were just minutes from safety. Then, as they lined up for final approach, Captain Hunt advanced the throttle on the remaining engine to adjust their descent path. In that instant, the already damaged left engine tore itself apart. Flames erupted. The last functioning power plant failed completely. In seconds, the Boeing 737 was transformed into a 50-ton glider. The cockpit filled with alarms. Hunt called for a restart of the right engine, but they were too low, too slow, and too close to the ground. The silence in the cockpit was deafening, except for the wind rushing past the fuselage. Below, the dark outline of the M1 motorway loomed closer. Hunt pulled back on the yoke, fighting for altitude. There was none left to give. At 20:24 local time, Flight 92 struck the embankment just short of the runway. The fuselage broke apart in a shower of sparks and twisted metal, sliding violently before coming to rest. Inside, chaos reigned. Darkness, smoke, and cries for help. Yet amid the devastation, acts of extraordinary courage unfolded. Flight attendants fought through debris and fire to open exits. Survivors helped others free themselves from shattered seats. Local motorists, seeing the crash from the nearby motorway, ran toward the burning wreckage to pull strangers to safety. 47 people lost their lives that night. 74 others were injured, many critically. But many survived, because of the strength and heroism of ordinary people in an extraordinary moment. The aftermath of the Kegworth air disaster shook Britain. The investigation that followed became one of the most detailed in aviation history. Engineers discovered that the CFM56 engines on the 737-400 vibrated differently at high altitudes, a behavior missed during ground testing. The fan blade that failed had fractured due to this unseen resonance. But the physical failure was only the beginning of the truth. Investigators uncovered a human story, one of assumption, perception, and psychology under pressure. The pilots had been trained on earlier Boeing 737 models, where smoke in the cabin almost always meant trouble with the right engine. In the newer 400, the air conditioning system had been redesigned, but the pilots had never been told. They trusted experience over data, a fatal but deeply human mistake. The cockpit voice recorder revealed calm professionalism to the end, but also the quiet echo of confirmation bias. The engine vibration gauges, which could have told them the truth, were ignored because they were unfamiliar. They didn't trust them. They trusted their senses, their training, their instincts, and those instincts betrayed them. The Kegworth crash changed aviation forever. Crew resource management was rewritten from the ground up. No longer would communication be filtered by hierarchy or hesitation. Cabin crew were empowered to speak up, to challenge, to report what they saw, no matter what the situation. Training programs worldwide emphasized human factors, how stress, confusion, and assumption can distort even the best judgment. For engineers, it was a wake-up call. Aircraft systems and cockpit interfaces had to account not just for mechanical reliability, but the fallibility of the human mind. Boeing modified the 737's design and retrained pilots across the fleet. Every airline reviewed its procedures, determined not to ensure that such a tragedy would never repeat.